Hi, my name is Claire, and in this video I will be talking about three concepts of motivation. The definition of motivation is the process by which activities are started, directed, and continued so that physical or psychological needs or wants are met. The first concept I'll be talking about is the 7 theories or approaches of motivation. And I'll be talking about David McClelland's needs theory as well and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The first theory is the instincts theory, and Sigmund Freud believed that we had 2 types of instincts, Eros and Thanatos. And Eros was described as our drive of life, love, creativity, sexuality, and self-satisfaction. Thanatos was described as our drive of aggression, destruction, violence, and death. So if you were to go against this theory, someone would ask, how do we know for sure that it wasn't learned, it being like a type of information or an action that someone would consider an instinct? The next theory is the drive reduction theory, and this is explained by 2 ways of being motivated: intrinsic and extrinsic. To be intrinsically motivated, a person would participate in an action because they desired or wanted to, and because the outcome of them doing this would result in them feeling good about themselves and building up their self-esteem. To be extrinsically motivated, a person would perform an act because it would result in a concrete, tangible reward that would be given afterwards. So they would do it expecting a reward, a physical reward after, such as candy or money. And this theory was developed in the 1920s by Clark Hull, and he divided this theory into our needs and what drives us. And a need would be a requirement or material for survival, such as the need for hunger or thirst. And what drives us would be the motivational tension or arousal that energizes to fulfill a need. Our drives are divided into 2 categories. So the first is the primary drive and our secondary drives. So the primary drives are our biological drives, such as the drive for thirst or hunger or sleep or sex, and our secondary drives are learned. So the drive to want achievement or social approval, or the drive to earn money. And when being driven, homeostasis is met and is a desired level in this approach. The next approach is the arousal approach, and in this approach we still have the need of maintaining homeostasis, and it is explained when we get bored and have the need for stimulation. It motivates behavior that is thrilling or daring, and this leads a person to do something exciting and perform an activity like jumping out of a plane, bungee jumping, or riding a roller coaster. This theory states that we are all born with stimulus motives that appear to be unlearned and cause an increase in stimulation or curiosity. A very important component of this theory is the Yerkes-Dodson law. This law states that performance is related to arousal, and that our best performances are when we have a moderate level of arousal. For example, taking a test or competing in a sport. Here is a video by Udacity on Yerkes-Dodson law.
We also have quality of performance from low to high. So the idea here is that we prefer to be in situations that are neither overstimulating or understimulating. For example, over here, when you're highly aroused, you'd be panicked, and you probably wouldn't perform very well. And around here, you'd probably have a lot of anxiety, and again, your performance wouldn't be that great. And a little higher up, we'd see stress, where our optimal level of performance would still be decreasing when we're under stress. But we are highly aroused. Here we'd be mildly aware. We're awake, but not really into whatever we're doing. A little farther down, we'd see boredom. And finally, towards the bottom is where we'd find sleep. So we really want to be in this central area for the optimal level of performance. We see this is important not only for things like academics. This could even be like for playing sports. So say you're playing hockey or soccer. You don't want to have too high of a level of arousal because then you're going to be panicked or have a lot of anxiety, which will decrease your performance. But you also don't want to be really bored or kind of tired and not really there. You want to be in this middle zone. That way you can perform your very best.
The next approach is the incentive approach, and it looks at how incentives, rewards, or drives us to perform behaviors. And an example of this would be, this approach would be working out every day because you know it's good for you and your health, and you need to get into better shape. And behavior is a response to external stimulus in this approach, and its rewarding properties. And in this theory also believes that there is no such thing as a selfless act. The next theory is the humanistic theory, and it addresses the meaning of behavior and suggests that humans were driven to fulfill certain needs. Abraham Maslow proposed his theory and the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in 1943, which consisted of the 5-tier model of human needs, starting from the top: self-actualization, esteem, love and belonging, safety, and physiological needs. Here's a short video by Life Hacks on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The last theory of motivation is called the self-determination theory, which focuses on the social content and how that affects an action. There are 3 specific needs that are said to motivate us in this theory: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy is defined to be the freedom of choice and for one to be in control of their own behavior and goals. Competence is defined as by perceived self-belief in one's ability to perform well in an activity or mastering a challenging task. Relatedness is defined by a sense of shared experience, or in relationships, a sense of belonging, intimacy, and security. This theory focuses on the idea of fostering an intrinsic motivation because autonomy, competence, and relatedness are all facets of a person who is strongly intrinsically motivated. The last concept of motivation I'll be talking about is David McClelland's needs theory. This theory states that an individual has 3 main driving motivators, which are needs for achievement, affiliation, and power. A person with a higher need for achievement takes calculated risks to accomplish challenging goals and would tend to rather work alone. And a person with a higher need for affiliation would favor collaboration over competition and doesn't like to take high risk or uncertain risks. And lastly, a person with a higher need for power enjoys competition, winning, and having recognition, and tends to want control and influence over others. This concludes my presentation, and thank you for your time and attention.